I'm going to introduce you now to somebody who will speak in greater depth because she knew her in greater depth. She was the author of the book, This Is Your Life, which was made into the movie This Is My Life, Nora's film. And she has a book coming out this spring called The Interestings, and she is Meg Wolitzer. Please welcome her.
Nora was a writer's best friend. There was no one more encouraging or generous to other writers, particularly young women writers. Not long after she died, when my friends and I were just so sad, a woman published an essay about how years earlier, when she was young, she'd written a fan letter to Nora, and Nora had invited her to her apartment for lunch. And the young woman went, and I feel certain that they had chicken salad, and that Nora told her the recipe, which involved some special ingredient that you could only get on 29th Street on Tuesdays and Thursdays between 3 o'clock and 4:30. And the woman told Nora that she'd started writing something, and Nora basically said, "Let me read it." Then, not long after the first essay, another woman published one. And I think it said something like, "I wrote my senior thesis last year at Wesleyan about Nora's influence as a feminist, and I sent it to her, and she called me up and said, 'Your writing is very strong. What are you planning on doing next?'" Well, these essays kept on appearing. One after the other, they detailed the generosity of our friend to young writers who she didn't know. Apparently, sometimes she even called them up if she'd read something that they'd written that she liked. And they went to her apartment, and I bet they stayed for hours. Now, this began to seem a little surprising. I started to imagine Nora's apartment, a place that I always loved to visit, as suddenly filled with young women writers. In this image, it's sort of an opium den with all these women draped across sofas, writing in longhand, eating her chicken salad and beloved cabbage strudel, and murmuring, "Thank you, Nora," as she introduced them to older writers that she thought they ought to meet. Writers like, who knows, J.K. Rowling, Maya Angelou. "Maybe you and J.K. and Maya can collaborate or something," Nora helpfully told one young woman writer. Or at least this is what the young woman writer told the Daily Beast. But come on, is it possible that she did so much for so many people? Well, she did a lot for me. This sounds like one of those stories where somebody says, "I didn't used to believe in UFOs, but one day I was walking in my cornfield and this thing appeared." Nora Ephron appeared in my life in the late 1980s, wanting to option my novel. She was planning to direct the movie as well as co-write it with her sister Delia. The movie would be about a stand-up comic and her two daughters. Nora and Delia invited me to join them as they went to check out some women comics at little clubs around the city. There was one night that they were going to a club and I was pregnant and I had to go to childbirth class, and Nora said, "Oh, skip the class and come with us. Here's what they were going to teach you tonight." So I went. And in the name of research, we waded through all these Summer's Eve feminine hygiene product jokes performed by big-haired women in those Dress for Success 1980s blouses. You remember those blouses? Lily Tomlin once described that fussy thing at the neck, sort of like a scarf, sort of like a tie, sort of like a ruffle, and it doesn't threaten anyone because you don't look good in it. The movie became This Is My Life, a tender, charming comedy which tanked at the box office, but still has a loyal following among very smart women, not to mention a great Carly Simon soundtrack, and we became friends for the next 24 years. I'll always have that movie to look at, but I won't have Nora, which seems so bewildering to me and apparently to many other women writers. She was the one we learned from. Her sensibility was the same in person as it was on the page. She was the person who wrote, "Oh, how I regret not having worn a bikini for the entire year I was 26. If anyone young is reading this, go right this minute, put on a bikini, and don't take it off until you're 34. And she also wrote, "If pregnancy were a book, they would cut out the last 2 chapters. And also, when your children are teenagers, it's important to have a dog so that somebody in the house is happy to see you." That is true. And it has become horribly clear to me that I am probably the only young woman who ever worked in the Kennedy White House whom the president did not make a pass at. Perhaps it was my permanent wave, which was a truly unfortunate mistake. Perhaps it was my wardrobe, which mostly consisted of multicolored Dynel dresses that looked like distilled Velveeta cheese. Perhaps it's because I'm Jewish. Don't laugh, think about it. Think about that long, long list of women JFK slept with. Were any Jewish? I don't think so. And as she told the Wellesley graduating class in her commencement speech, whatever you choose, however many roads you travel, I hope that you choose not to be a lady. I hope you will find some way to break the rules and make a little trouble out there. And I also hope that you will choose to make some of that trouble on behalf of women. And in that same speech, be the heroine of your own life, not the victim. When you finished writing your own book, Nora was the first person that you wanted to send it to. And then you'd wait, not leaving the house, even for important events like your kid's bar mitzvah. And then as you waited, the phone would finally ring, and the caller ID said, Ephron, Nora, and you'd shout to your husband, oh my God, Nora's on the phone, I think she's read my book. And then you'd answer the phone really casually, like, hello? And she'd say, this is Nora. And then she'd say, I loved it. And it would make your day. What a seasoned and confident and brilliant writer can do for a younger one is open up a world of possibilities. Nora did that. When she told you I loved it, she let you see that you had a whole life out there and that it was yours to take. She lived this way herself. Once, a long time ago, a group of us went out to dinner, and there was a salad on the menu with candied walnuts in it. Now, this was back when candied walnuts were a new phenomenon, and the only reason anyone wanted that salad was because of the walnuts. And the waiter went around the table, and everybody ordered it. And then he got to Nora, and she asked for the salad, too, with double walnuts. It wouldn't have occurred to the rest of us to do that, to ask for a little more of life. Nora was constantly handing out her own version of double walnuts to the friends she loved, to the writers she encouraged. It's staggering to me to think how much work she did in her life, that early journalism, those essays, plays, and screenplays, and that one shimmering, devastatingly funny novel. She did all this fearless, serious, hilarious work, and yet she still had time to be a cheerleader for talent wherever she saw it. So as for all those women who wrote about Nora, what I wanted to say to you is that I know you didn't make any of it up. I know it really happened, and just like me, you were so lucky. Now we need to keep working, which is what Nora always did. And I don't think there's anywhere better than a room full of writers to say that when you're working, you just feel great. Nora Ephron's legacy is strong. Her body of work is wonderful. But she's also given her writer friends a way forward and a way to remember her. It's really pretty easy. All you have to do is read the work of someone new and talented and call them up and say, I loved it. So thank you.